Hey guys, what's going on? Todd here. I don't really have this super well thought out today, but I don't know. There's something inside of me that's telling me that I need to communicate some things that I don't really have well formulated for the sake of this video right now. Um, the thing that's on the top of my mind in this particular moment is how important it's going to be for us to improve our understanding of weapons-based combatives, in particular weapons-based grappling and weapons-based wrestling. So I'm about to start about a 4 or 5 hour training session before I go to the range. Friday is always an intensive training day for me. These first 2 hours, I'll be grappling with all professionals, high level professionals. I think I'm the only person here who's not a black belt. There's one brown belt who just happens to also be a UFC superstar. Why am I saying that? Why am I bringing that up? There are several reasons. The first one is because these people are at such a higher level than I am when it comes to grappling, that forces an adaptation in me. And by the way, I'll probably do about 7 rounds today. About 5 out of those 7 rounds will be weapons based. So I'll be rolling with these high level people with my gun on from concealment. This forces an adaptation. The level of learning that happens and the evolution that happens this way is really, really important. And then on top of that, I'll be spending some time with Greg Nelson. We'll spend about 30 to 60 minutes today just on collaboration and exploration and discussion and an evaluation of weapons-based combatives and weapons-based grappling. We'll be kind of mapping things out and exploring things that I'll take that back to IDS, Integrated Defense Strategies, with my headquarters, and we'll test it and we'll refine it and then we'll put it together into curriculum. This is really important. I don't see enough of this happening out there. I see people sort of tinkering and dabbling, but I'd really like to see more of a commitment in this area. For me personally, when it comes to weapons-based grappling, just that, I'm putting in about an average of about 15 5-minute rounds a week on top of the exploration. We're learning a lot, and we're really evolving things and pushing the envelope and the level of understanding. One of the things that really concerns me that I'm seeing out there is that I'm seeing training organizations that are not, they're calling things kind of weapons based, but they don't have a gun on, and it's hard for me to understand this. I'm talking about an inert weapon, right? I'm trying to understand this. That changes the context and the strategy of things so much that it literally is a different art form. There's a crossover, there's a Venn diagram there, but it's so dramatically different that what happens is that training scars start to develop, and I think that it's really time for us to understand that what slip and capture errors are and how patterns and habits are formed, and it can really do you a lot of harm and detriment if you aren't really training in a way that is very specific contextually. This has to change in our industry, and in so many ways. It's really, really bothering me. I've been studying neuroscience since I was 10 years old, I'm formally trained. I lectured at medical schools on psychoneuroimmunology. I've been a professional mental training and performance skill acquisition coach at the highest levels, major league levels, Olympic levels. I know how this works. And the industry really, not only are they neglecting this topic, which is so important since 80% of assaults are simple assaults, and then now we have a weapon on, but the methodology in which is being taken in terms of teaching this and the way that it's being presented. Listen, grappling is not weapons-based grappling. It's not the same. It's not the same thing. Putting a gi on or going out with no gi and just doing sport grappling is not the same. I can't tell you how many times I have gotten with a high level, like, listen, 2 of my training partners are IBJJF world champions. Okay? One of my training partners is a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay? These are some of my primary partners, and I can tell you, having rolled with high level black belts, the moment that you put a gun on them, they are in trouble. The past that they are and the reflexes that they have developed are not conducive to the weapons-based context. I have their gun in no time. No time. They have not developed this. They have not developed that strategy yet. Some of them are learning. The other thing that's really helpful with me doing this is that my training partners know that I have it on, and they're getting better and better at getting it. Not only are they world-class grapplers, but they're getting better and better at getting it. They'll actually get together and talk and develop strategies for how to get my gun away from me or how to prevent me from accessing it. And know that when I roll, I'm always rolling in the context of a self-defense situation. So I'm using the use of force continuum, and I'm grappling and rolling in a way where I can only access my weapon when I'm justified to do so. Even when it comes to sport grappling, we got to be careful when we're calling it self-defense, because we're not thinking, the legalities aren't discussed. The context of legalities aren't discussed. It isn't discussed when it is appropriate for you to restrict somebody's airway in a self-defense situation. What are the legal ramifications of that if you aren't justified in doing so? What are the legal ramifications of breaking somebody's arm or leg when you aren't justified to do so? You know, using the same level of force that comes against you without going beyond that level of force. There's lots of questions that I think are unanswered, particularly when in the weapons-based side of it. Like, where's this gray area if you're in a self-defense situation between, you know, substantial bodily harm and great bodily harm? In most jurisdictions, you can't go to lethal force unless you're reasonably faced with immediate fear of death or great bodily harm. Some jurisdictions are substantial bodily harm, and then lots of questions about, well, if someone's trying to submit you, but it isn't a lethal submission, say they just have, you know, you have a reasonable reasonable evaluation that someone is trying to break a limb. You know, that's substantial bodily harm. But then the question is, how do I know that it isn't going to be permanent damage, right? So just to give you some definitions, substantial bodily harm is when you experience temporary or protracted loss of any bodily organ or member of your body. Substantial bodily or great bodily harm or death means that it's going to be permanent, or a high permanent loss or disfigurement of any bodily member or organ, you know, or a high probability of death. How do you know when one is going to turn into the other? How do you know if someone puts you in a arm bar or a knee bar that isn't going to, during that altercation, that isn't going to, you know, remove your ability or inhibit your ability to continue to defend yourself, and now you have a weapon on? These are all things that need to be explored in more depth. I haven't really seen any, I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist, but I haven't really seen any really, you know, clear parameters that have been developed around the legalities of submission grappling, especially when you have a weapon on, that becomes a little bit more clear. But I do think there are some people out there that are high profile, that are teaching things that are dangerous, that will say that just the mere fact that you are entangled or on the ground and you have a weapon on puts you reasonably in immediate fear of death or great bodily harm and justifies you to automatically go to a higher level of force. That is absolutely wrong. That is absolutely untrue. And if you haven't spent the time doing this, you may very well panic and go to an excessive level of force, or go to that weapon at the wrong time that only ends up putting you in greater danger. It isn't just about access or retention. A lot of it is about decision making and development of strategy, and that means you have to do this a lot. You have to do it a lot. Soon I'm going to be coming out with an online streaming training program on this, and I'm going to, create some framework for you and principles and some methods and techniques from different positions and build context around it and a lot. But you have to do it. You can't fake your way through this. You can't go out and dabble and stick a feather up your butt and call yourself a fucking chicken. You have to do it and do it and do it and do it. Law enforcement have their own unique set of circumstances that they're faced with outside of the citizen defender context. I'm just going to come out and say it again. I feel very strongly I've been grappling with guns on now. It'll be in January going on 11 years. And I feel strongly that if you have an instructor or you see instructors that are teaching this, and their philosophy is that you need to start without the gun on, they are doing you a major disservice. You have to have an extreme level of sensitivity to that thing in that context immediately out of the gate. It has to be that has to be baked into the cake. Context dictates strategy. I'll just give you an example. I rode with a couple of high-level guys on Sunday, brand new, never touched hands with them before. D1 wrestlers. They knew I had a gun on. I showed it to them. We did our safety checks. And I say, like I always say, if you can get my gun, get it. Both of them immediately sunk a guillotine on me, and I drew my gun on them. I had they're like, oh God, I never even thought of that. My airway was obstructed by a high-level athlete. So I was reasonably in immediate fear of death or great bodily harm when I transitioned to that weapon during that role. I'm like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. And that was the simplest thing. There's a million examples of this that I don't think that most people think of. It bothers me. It does bother me. This isn't me being an elitist or anything like that, but damn it, we're talking about life and death here. Fuck. We're talking about having a lethal weapon on you. You better damn well know what you're fucking doing. Again, especially for citizen defenders, 80% of assaults are simple assaults. What distance do those take place at? You're probably going to be in the clinch at some point. You're probably going to be at clinch distance, contact distance. And if you think that, well, you're just not going to go to the ground on a dangerous fucking surface with a 56.6% chance of more than one attacker, you're out of your fucking mind. And now you're not familiar with that. And you panic, or you make you zig instead of zag, and you haven't developed that sensitivity. And we have to evolve this. I am hell bent for leather to evolve this discipline. Now, what happens is people end up pigeonholing me into a specific category that says that I don't focus on shooting or anything like that. I'm just all a weapons-based, combatives guy. I practice fucking shooting every single day, 7 days a fucking week. 10% of that is marksmanship, 90% of it is fluid dynamic defensive firearms work. That's absolutely not true. These things have to work together. These principles have to be interdependent upon one another in a way that is non-linear. We have to have adaptable principles because the variables that we're faced with are unpredictable and unrepeatable. And they happen rapidly and violently and when and how you least expect it. Period. So I gotta go. I'm gonna go get my roll on here. Maybe I'll post some stuff as I'm training today. I'll be here for about 5 hours, then I'll be at the range for about an hour after that. But it's time for us to take this thing and improve it. I'll help. I'll help in any way I can. I'll start putting up more and more stuff. And for those of you who are really serious, I don't want any fucking dabblers. I don't want anybody dabbler. I don't want any dabblers who just want to stick their toe in the water and call themselves fucking, an Olympic swimmer. You have to understand the science of competence and how it works. If you're serious about evolving, developing this, I will do my part to help, whether it's a big part or a small part. But we have to take this discipline to a new level, and we have to clearly identify that weapons-based combatives, weapons-based grappling, weapons-based wrestling is its own discipline. Just like hockey is a different discipline than figure skating is. The context changes things. The context changes things. There are no scores. There's no referees. I'm not going for points. It's just not the same. I could go on for hours about the contextual differences. And just to validate that a little bit, my coach and co-collaborator is Greg Nelson himself. That's who I'll be here with today for the next 5 hours. If he was sitting here right next to me right now, maybe I should go get him. He will tell you directly to your face that the weapons-based context is its own discipline. It is a very, very different thing. Okay? So let's improve this thing, guys. Reach out to me, contact me, message me, whatever. Tune into what I'm doing here. Let's do this together. Let's evolve this thing. But no fakers, no posers, no pretenders. If you go out and you touch hands every now and then, you put a gun on every now and then, or you're a grappler guy who goes out and every now and then puts a gun on, and you're not really committed to this, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in pretenders and dabblers. And there's a whole fuckload out there who are just looking for some kind of weird social status thing. Fuck that. This is life and death. This isn't about ego. Okay. So I'm gonna go train now. So we'll see what comes out of it today. And if I have the opportunity, I'll share that with all of you guys. All right. Let's do this.